Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Rose Simpson. I'm a librarian at the New Haven Free Public Library, and welcome to Co-Create. We are here with our creative in residence, Nadine Nelson, and our special guest today is Teodross Avery. Um, would you two like to introduce yourselves?
Experiential Epicurean events. I am also an artist, and so I'm so happy this year to be the creative in residence for the New Haven Public Library. We've been, I think, doing some really good programming, and I really enjoy my Wednesdays where I get to be able to sit with a variety of artists and talk about their process, and we get to co create together. If you are watching, we would love for you to be able to participate. Maybe you are creating art. Maybe you want to be able to ask some questions. Maybe you want to share a project in which you want to get feedback. Um, but we hope that you participate in some way and maybe say some things if you want to. And I'm so happy to have Teodross Avery here. And Teodross is a wonderful musician, and he will do his own introduction. However, I will talk to you about how I know him. And so I went to Tufts University, and Teodross went to Berkeley. They're both in Boston, Massachusetts. And I don't know exactly like if I know you from Wally's. I guess I probably know you from Wally's, probably.
No, actually, I think I know what happened. I was hired to perform with my group at Tufts.
Okay.
That's
All
how
right.
it's going. And then after that, I saw you getting involved.
Right. So, do you see? So his group performed at Tufts. And then, so Wally's is an institution in Boston, Massachusetts. It doesn't get enough play in regard to jazz history, and that Boston was just like New York and other places, was a jazz mecca. And if you know Boston, Tremont and Columbus had lots of different jazz clubs. So Wally's is really a historical and wonderful institution in that over, I'm like, 60 years ago, Mr. Walcott, who was a Black man from Barbados, was able to have a bar in Boston way back when, historically people look at Boston a very racist place. Um, Very few people, Black people, have liquor licenses, and Mr. Walcott was able to have one way back when. And so Wally's is not open because of COVID. It's very small. It's like an old fashioned, um, great jazz place. I love going there. Anytime I go to Boston, I always make sure that I go. It has music 365 days out of the year, and it's free for you to go in, and you get to listen to people like Teodros. I will tell you a secret that many of people like Teodros and the Marcellus brothers and Wayne Escoffrey, if you're a jazz friend, these are different people that, there are titans of jazz. When they play at other places in Boston, afterwards they go to Wally's and they jam out. And so if you are in the know, you can go and watch them. And the Marsalis brothers, many of them went to Berkeley, or um, I don't know. I think did they all go to Berkeley? Or did they go to
Two of them, Branford went, Branford Marcellus went, and also Delphio Marcellus.
Yeah. So when they come, they always stop by and they usually play. And so many artists, if you go to the Regatta Bar or other places where you listen to jazz and you pay a lot of money, afterwards, they usually come by Wally's and jam out with the musicians there. So that's how Teodros and I know each other. I love Wally's. Wally's, I don't know if you know this, Teodros, that Eleanor used to work at Tufts.
Professional musician, producer, and writer. I am from Northern California. I left Northern California when I was 18, and I went to Boston to attend Berklee College of Music. I got my bachelor's degree there. While I was in college, I got signed to a record label, released a couple CDs on MCA GRP Records, and that was my introduction into the recording industry. From there, I appeared in, 'movies, and I appeared in the movie Love Jones. And, 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 I appeared in the movie Love I have music in Love Jones as well, but I was also performing with a band.
I
Uh,
didn't know that.
yeah, yeah. And if you check out the scenes with Lorenz Tate, and that's me playing saxophone in the background. And also, like I said, perform one of my songs. I've got songs in Brown Sugar, Beauty Shop. I toured with popular music and jazz acts. I toured with Roy Hargrove Big Band, Lauren Hill, Matchbox 20, Train, Shakira, Mos Def, um, lots of different groups. And then on top of that, I I oh, sorry about that. I played with I recorded my own albums as well. So I have music on iTunes, on Spotify, all of that. Um, During that time, I was also recording a lot. So I recorded on some great albums, some of which are three-time Grammy-winning albums. I recorded with the vocalist Dee Dee Bridgewater. I co-wrote a song and recorded with Amy Winehouse. I recorded with Leela James, soul singer. So I've been busy, but at the same time, I also went to get my degrees. I went and got my master's degree in music from NYU, and then I got my doctorate from USC a few years ago from USC here in LA. So I always wanted to be the person who could perform, but who could also think and tell you exactly what I'm doing and be able to be a professional in that area as far as being a music intellectual. That was always important to me. A lot of my heroes uh, were people who could do the same, whether they be John Coltrane or Donald Byrd. Especially Donald Byrd, he had a doctorate and a PhD in ethnomusicology, and he was a great jazz player and also what people call acid jazz today. A lot of his music has been sampled. So I always wanted to be one of those players who was in both worlds, who could play old school and new school, but who was also intelligent in dealing and explaining music. And yeah, that's pretty much what's been going on. I mean, I'm not gonna hit you too hard, Nadine, but I do have a new CD that I put out a few
Do you want?
months ago.
Okay.
Hmm?
Yes. Yeah, it's on Thelonious
Yes,
Monk, correct?
uh,
So do you want to tell us
yes,
about? Do
I
you want to tell us
celebrate.
about Thelonious Monk and why he's important? And maybe um, I know I might not be asking the questions the way that you want to, but I'm free flow.
You do it how you want to, sister. You do it how you want to, sister. You do it your way.
The only
As
way.
long as you do it. That's what I'm about.
So might you
Uh,
school
Go
people
ahead.
on I love jazz, and I mean I might not, I can't say that. I mean, I think that I can identify a lot of different people more than the average person because I had spent a lot of time in Wally's, and Wally's is one of my favorite.
And so I went to Van Halen, who's one of the greatest electric guitar players. I loved his music, but I couldn't get the speed. But then I heard Coltrane play Giant Steps, and I heard it, and I knew I could get into it. I don't know why, but it was just throwing me a line and was like, you can get it right here, T. Boom. He threw the line to me. I caught it, and then I went to the saxophone, and I never stopped being inspired by his music. At the same time, or right after, maybe about 2 years later, I started listening to Thelonious Monk as well. And where my dad lived, my mom, she lived in Oakland, San Francisco, Marin County, Berkeley, California. She moved around a lot in the Bay Area of Northern California. But my dad was in the country, and there was nothing to do in the country. It was always like hella hot, and
Does he live like around like
it was like we had like
farm country in
yeah, he lived, yeah. Yeah, he had a farm. We had 6.5 acres.
okay, nice.
Say
Nice.
again?
So I said that's
Right there.
nice. So I Can you hear me? Can you
Yeah,
hear?
there was a little delay, but yeah,
Oh, oh, I said
I hear
that's
you now.
really beautiful out there because I think I told you that when the last time I went out to California, I got to spend a lot of time in Oakland, but I went on a whole like Black Panther like food farm tour. So they took us around Oakland and Berkeley and whatever, but they took us a little bit out and to go around and there, you know, to see like different, there's like soul flower flower farm that's a black owned farm and some other farms that are further out, probably where your father was. So it's pretty out there.
I'm gonna switch to another room while we're talking where the internet connection is better. But keep
Okay.
talking, I'm listening.
Okay. Yeah. So to say that, you know, out in Teodross is from Northern California, and Oakland and Berkeley are obviously cities, but then just outside of there, there's a lot of growing that happens. You know, people are probably more familiar with like Sonoma and Napa Valley, but then there's other places. I don't know the names of the towns, but where they have um, acres and they're growing all types of different types of food. So I am just cutting out things because I don't know where my cutout stuff is. I had a whole bunch of stuff that I already cut out already, and it is in a bag upstairs that my daughter didn't bring up. So obviously I can't leave. So I'm just gonna cut out some other stuff, and I'm determined to make something today to finish.
Are you going for a particular theme with the images you're cutting out?
No, I'm just gonna do a box.
Okay.
I have it's not gonna be the box for us. I'm gonna because I want to do a gold one,
Hmm.
but for our make and take,
Hmm.
but it's just gonna be a box.
Okay.
So I recorded an album of his music. It's called Harlem Stories: The Music of Thelonious Monk.
Hmm.
I don't know if you can see that, but uh, it's been doing well. I had two quartets, and we played basically two different bands of different musicians, and we played 5 songs each. And the album's been doing very well. It got on some best of 2020 music lists, and it was on the radio charts, on the jazz charts for a while, and it's got some good play. The person who wrote the liner notes is a great writer by the name of Robin D.G. Kelly, who he's a music intellectual, and he's written a lot of great books on music, and he's considered like the authority on Thelonious Monk. So it was great to have him offer his, his wisdom and his perspective on the project.
That's good. Um, so you're a professor. Do you want to talk about that and being an intellectual musician and what that means?
Yeah, I mean, for me, uh, music is to be shared. I like to pass it on. I get to do that through teaching. One of the things is that when you're a professional musician living in a city like New York, you can uh, you can get so wound up in being a working musician that you don't get a lot of opportunities to pass the music on to younger people. So being an educator really helps me pass on the music in a really honest way, to really show young people what I was shown by older musicians. I was fortunate to be around a lot of people who are considered jazz masters now. People like Art Blakey, Elvin Jones, Donald Byrd, Freddie Hubbard, Betty Carter, um, Matt Adderley. These are all people who, like, if you go get a jazz history book, you'll see their names. And I feel fortunate that they let me be like the fly on the wall and listen to them and learn. And all those people I got to play with on stage. So for me, you know, if I did not pass the music on to the next generation, I feel like I would be really breaking up the tradition, the oral tradition of jazz, and really just saying, okay, I was given something, now let me pass it on to the next generation. So teaching really gives me the opportunity to pass on everything to the younger people. And I teach at a school called Cal State University, Dominguez Hills, here in Los Angeles. And I'm the jazz studies and contemporary music director. So I teach people how to play jazz, but as well as popular styles of music. You know, we have the students performing R&B, singer songwriting material, soul, blues, rock, whatever they're into. We try to bring the best out of them and really help them learn to be a better performer, a better arranger, a better songwriter. So that's how I give back. And I bring everything that I've done in my career. I told you those names, the jazz people, but
Mhm.
also the prior people. Like I bring all of that experience to them. So when I give them direction, it's not like, oh, I'm just gonna give them something quick and get them out of my face. It's not like that. It's like this. Hey, when I was on the road with so and so, this is how we did it. If you do it like this, you'll
On all of that as a jazz artist and Black man and, just connoisseur of life.
well, for me, because all my favorite artists were musicians who lived in New York, I knew that I had to live in New York to get the message in the music. That was important to me. They all spent time in New York. Some of my favorite musicians spent time in other cities as well, but New York was really the mecca. And you could say for American culture in general, from the 1920s all the way up until like maybe the 70s, 80s, it started to disperse into other areas. But in all areas of the arts, and I mean, really across the board, finance, all of that. New York was really the headquarters. So um, I had to go there to really learn the music. Um, for me, Boston was a hard sell, no doubt. But I was like this. I was like, okay, I went to New York when when I first got to Boston. I was making trips to New York to perform for different organizations and arts organizations and things like that. And I was there in 92, 93, 94. And let me tell you something. New York of that time was a lot different from what it is now. And for me, coming from Northern California, to see the movement in the city, it was very intimidating. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna go from like being in the Bay Area to being in New York City and not having to like fight on a regular basis. I mean, it was like it was busy. It was just really busy. You go to like
Where'd
34.
you live in New York?
I was in Brooklyn later, but I'm saying in the night like 92, 3, 4,
Yeah.
when I was living in Boston, I would go to New York and I would go to like, I stopped at Madison Square Garden and you just see crime out in the open.
Oh, I know.
Right.
I
And
know.
nobody was afraid to do it. And so for me, I was like, I'm not going to New York yet. I need to learn about the East Coast before I get to New York. So for me, Boston was actually a good place for me to be at. It was like a launch pad for New York. So when I was in Boston, even though I was practicing all the time and I was playing at Wiley's all the time and really just, honing my skills, but it was put it like this. I didn't love Boston, but it was a great launching pad for my New York, uh, 15 years in New York. So from that perspective, I actually really appreciate Boston. And there were musicians who I heard and talked to when I was in high school, and I don't know what it was, but they would see me, and I don't know if it was the innocence that I had or whatever, but they said, "You need to go to Boston.
I
You
think
need
it's
to go
kind
to
of
Boston."
well, I think that's kind of funny that you came from Oakland though, because I remember the first time I went to Oakland probably is 90 around 92. And I remember seeing Do you know Raphael Sadiq?
Yeah, yeah, the singer, yeah, producer, yeah.
Anywhere he is, he's one of my people, like Raphael Sadiq, Michelle and Degiacello. Do you know Ben Harper?
Yeah, yeah.
So
90s.
I've hung out with Ben Harper. So Ben Harper, Damian Marley, those are people that if they are playing anywhere,
Would be
I
there.
went to Santa Cruz like for 2 days. But then I saw that Tony was playing, and I was like, I want to go see Tony. But it was like 19, who knows when in Oakland, where Oakland I was just like, and I was there in the nighttime. So I was like, yeah, at any given day, like I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go. It's like when I went to Albuquerque and I found out Prince was performing, and I was like, I'm gonna go. But it was, you don't have Uber, you didn't have cell phones. If anything jumps off, like I don't know where I am. So it's like I was like, oh, and then so I'm with my white friend who's like 6'5", and I'm like, I can't go with Walter to see Tony. I've never been to, Oakland by myself. So I can't go by myself. And so I love Tony, and I love Raphael Sadiq. So if I ever come out to Los Angeles, you'll have to, get us together,
Okay, yeah, I'll call him. Just let him know. Yeah, let me come through.
Be like, this crazy woman, Ben Harper. I met him twice. I met him when I was in Paris, my first day on the Champs-Elysees. He blessed my trip. And I saw him for a longer time. You remember Cynthia Adiobo. So yeah, Cynthia was working at the Apollo as the director of development, or no, events, director of events. So after someone would perform, they would go give a bag, and so we had to wait outside. So we talked to his family, because half of Ben Harper's family is from New York, and they were really nice. And then he talked to us for 45 minutes. He was the nicest.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah,
I
well,
said, I'll just tell you a little joke. I said that, I want to be Ben Harper's last wife.
hey, that can be arranged. You just got to do the work.
What work is that?
Life work, life work, baby. You got to put in the time. You can get the dream. You just got to put the time in.
Well, right now he's on the third, so who knows?
I mean, you put that energy out there, it might come back. That's how
That's what I'm
life works.
saying, and we already had a lovely time. So he was great. He brought us back like everything, all the merchandise. He came back with a bag. I was like, I already got the CD. I already have all this stuff, but I'm going to take all of it because Ben Harper gave it to me.
Did you put it in a plastic sealed container so none of his fingerprints wear off after 20 years? You put
I
it.
mean, when I hugged him on the Champs-Elysees and his wife, Laura Dern, was there, that wife was there, and I had to acknowledge her. I was a little upset, but I did. But I was like, can I get a hug?
You got last names and everything. You've been doing homework.
Well, Laura Dern is like, she's a popular actress. Like, I wouldn't say she's popular, but she's a respected actress.
Okay.
Has respected work.
I got you.
If you're into film, and stuff.
Right. Right.
So, what are you? How has COVID? Obviously, were you? I mean, you're a professor, so do you still do the whole before COVID? Um, you know, um, Going out and performing and going on tour.
Before COVID, was I touring?
Yeah, were you touring on a regular, or
I mean, I've slowed a lot of that down. I mean, there were times that I would be on the road for months at a time, but I wanted to really slow that down by having more of a balanced life between teaching and performing. So I still do performances, but not on the level I was doing when I was in New York. Because the thing is, like, now I'm married, I have a child, and there was a time where I was getting this doctorate, and an immense amount of studying was going into getting that doctorate. And when you start a degree like that, if you don't finish it, you'll pay for it later. Like in other words, if you take a break and go do something else and come back, you're gonna pay for that because you're gonna break up that intellectual thinking and the pace and the momentum. And I told myself, I said, if I leave now, I'm probably like I'm gonna finish when I come back, but I won't finish. Like if I had a year left, I probably wouldn't finish a year. You know, it would end up being 1 or 2 years. And I didn't take the tour. And honestly, that was like the best decision for being, a husband and a father. So now I can go and perform with people. But it's usually like for my band or if it's for somebody else, it's a quick hit. We go out, do a couple weeks, and then come back. But that's the way I like it now. I'm more into the recording end of it. Like now I can record, pretty consistently. Like my goal is to put out an album per year. So every year I'm going to put out an album. I put one out 2 years ago. It was a Coltrane project. Before that, I put out a duo album called Postmodern Trap Music with me and a great drummer who played with Sun Ra, Chad Baker, and Archie Shep. His name is Marvin Boogaloo Smith. We did that. I put the Coltrane album out last year, as I said, and then the Monk album came out this year. So I have a new album coming out. No, what is it? No, the Monk album came out last year. So for the past, all the way up until now, this year I'm putting out another album. It's a live album I did in New York. And
Where?
I'm not supposed to say, but it's a Manhattan Jazz Club.
Oh, so was it at the Blue Note?
No, but close by.
Oh, was it at Lincoln Center?
No, closer to the Blue Note, like
Oh,
literally like less than a mile.
okay.
So so now I'm just like more interested in doing projects where I'm composing, where I'm recording my own music, writing my own music, doing. I did a spot on NPR. They featured my band where I brought in an abstract expressionist painter and an MC. We did it in Philly at WRTI. And if anyone wants to see the footage, you can go to my website, teodrossavery.com. But, I want to do projects like that where I'm bringing in people from other disciplines and, more of a multidisciplinary approach, bringing in, like I said, an expressionist painter, abstract expressionist painter, an MC, the jazz, mixing things up and doing projects like that. Of course, I'm into collaborating with people, but my days of just being the hired how can I say side man, I'm like not really there anymore. Because when you do that, you don't really get to express yourself. You're just supporting somebody else, and I'm more into supporting my own projects right now.
Okay. I get it. So anytime you come that, so outside of the installation was all um other people and but I like to do things where even if I'm not there, that people, it's not a passive experience. I don't like passive experiences. I'm known for interactive experiences. And so I like the idea of working with different disciplines, and I have worked with different disciplines. And I've usually worked with music, not together where like I'm cooking, like, like vibing off of that. But I think that that would be interesting.
Well, why don't we put something together?
I know that people will pay for.
Indeed.
Well, I want to come out. I've been down for a trip to Los Angeles, I like Northern California better. That's more my speed. It's more New England. What do you think about, there's a meme that's going around and it talks about the difference between West Coast and East Coast, and how like the East Coast, how like people are really kind of standoffish, but like when they know you, they'll be really nice. But people on the West Coast are just like, oh my God, like I'll be your friend. And then they're not really your
The, that that idea of the West Coast, I think, is more of an LA thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Northern California, at least the crowds that I've been in, they're more real about, more genuine about their relationship with you. Uh, but LA, there's a lot of that, what you're talking about. I mean, you know, LA's a large portion of LA is centered around TV. You know what I mean? So that ethos, that TV ethos, that actor ethos, it's like it permeates the whole region. And not that everyone is about that, but there are a lot of people, I would say the majority of the people down here have been touched or affected by Hollywood in some way. So there's always this area of, I should be nice to you because you might be somebody, which is totally like the most superficial, you know, ethos to have. But a lot of people are literally one step away from their big break, right? So they don't know. They could be talking to somebody whose uncle is Paul Newman, really. I mean, and it could be that, you know what I'm saying? And they might feel like they just need to be cool with you because you might put them on, you know. And if I was an actor, I guess I would be caught up into that. But luckily, I'm an artist and I don't have to be a part of that, you know. But I'm not gonna let you talk about the Bay Area like that. We don't get down like that, Nadine. That's LA. And
I
another
mean,
thing is this:
less
the Bay
so. I feel
Area
like
is almost a whole nother state. You East Coast people need to realize that Northern California and Southern California is like two different states.
I understand, but I've been to both, and I have actually spent more time in San Francisco, and I like San Francisco, but it is there. You still there's still a sense of superficiality that the East Coast doesn't have. The East Coast has its own issues where it can be really hard to get to know people, you know, like for so long, because people have their guard up. I mean, like I said, I like um I like San Francisco. I like Oakland. My brother was um out there working for Google. He his law firm was doing some work for Google. So he was out there for maybe a year. I have to just come out there and, you know, give Los Angeles a chance,
And be his
you know?
wife. And be his wife. Well, you know,
It's like
I
maybe
think
Ben Harper hears this enough. It's like, Nadine, you know. I was like, I've always like his civic endeavors. I was like, he doesn't do anything of food to slide up in there. I'm like, I don't surf, you know.
you are funny.
I love Ben Harper, you know.
I know. I believe you.
Wait, do you know Leon Mobley?
Yeah, yeah, I do actually. Yeah,
Yeah, he's my favorite percussionist. He's from Roxbury.
yeah. I met him years ago. I don't remember how we met, but it was on the music scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
Um,
seems like he's very nice.
yeah, he was cool. Yeah, yeah. You just shot a name out of the blue that I actually knew, which is uncommon because we're not in the music business. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like he was the artist; he was his percussionist. But yeah,
Yeah, but
um,
he's a great percussionist. He's percussionist for him, and then he's also percussionist for Damian Marley, my other husband. You know,
oh,
so
that's illegal. You know that, right?
what to be a polygamist?
You're a polygamist. You're a polygamist, right?
Yeah, you know, um,
Aspiring okay, so it's not illegal because you're aspiring to do it, but once you do it, illegal.
yeah. Well, we don't have to get technically married. I'm Jamaican, so but I won't. I don't know if you
Don't
want to
go
hear
running
this.
back. Don't go running back to your culture now. You already put it out there.
So I saw Theta and we went I saw Damian Marley. There was a time where Damian Marley and Ben Harper were on the same bill. Talk about amazing.
Oh, you must
Okay.
You must have been right.
I lost my mind.
You must have been about to get arrested by security. That's probably what happened.
And luckily it was in Central Park, and one of our friends from college, their uncles was they were security, so we got to go back. We didn't get to go see them, but we got to get the VIP treatment and just be up there. That was great. But then I am a total fan that I went from Boston all the way to New York to then go back. No, actually, I was living in New Haven. So New Haven to New York, okay? Then the next day to Boston.
Can I say something?
What?
If they find out that you're stalking them,
I'm just a music appreciator. I don't stalk them.
No,
When I
you
went to
understand something. When you're on tour, well, you gotta understand something. When you're on tour, like I've been on tour with like acts that have, I won't use the word groupies, but
I am not a groupie. I'm a fan
that's
aficionado.
what I'm saying. Not a groupie, but like a real diehard fan. I always get the secondhand conversation from the band leader or the artist talking about the people who drive from city to city, following them around. So I'm just saying, just be careful with that.
Because I went to 2 cities. I didn't tell you that I helped plan a whole trip that got canceled to go see Ben Harper.
Be careful with that.
I didn't tell you that my whole trip that I had a southern trip that me and my friend were supposed to go on, and I planned it around going to farms and food and doing all that. And then she had to cancel. I was like, I am not driving down south by myself to go. It was already kind of out there that I wanted to see how going to see Ben Harper down south would be, because his crowds are very interesting. I danced when I was younger. Um, but I would say writing and all different types of writing, because I write plays, I wrote poems. I went to Wesleyan as a teenager. They had a program called Center for Creative Youth that the top people in arts, if you were on the East Coast, you would have gone there for music, So I was into writing. I self-published a poetry book when I was in high school. I worked with like my English teacher for 2 summers, like independently. And, like we, published way back when no one did that.
You might so then you probably understand it quite clearly that if you started putting out books now, people would be like, I thought she was in the food, right? But at the same time, you love to write, so it would be a natural progression.
Well, people know, I mean, I don't know, people know that I write, and I don't even know, like, because I think that there's some people, think I do a lot of different things. I think some people think that I'm just a teacher. There's some people who are like, I have a food business. There's some people who know that I do art, because I don't really kind of explain to people necessarily what I do. I just, if they see it, they see it. I don't even know, like, I'm in the process of working with some marketing people to, kind of purse together like uh what my website. I had my website. I tried to put everything on there. And so I just separated. So now I had someone separate my art stuff completely out. So I don't know what,
That's an idea, because when you start doing specialized projects, oftentimes the people who are reviewing you, they don't always get it when you have these different platters that you can put in front of them. Like like most people, I think, who are, I guess, programmers or buyers, they might call themselves a programmer for, say, a museum. Like they like to check out an artist and relate one area to that artist. Say like Miles Davis, he was a trumpet player, but he was a great artist as well, right? But the art came later. The art came after his trumpet legacy was established, and it was more like something he did for therapy, just to like relax. Uh, but he never tried to sell him as a painter during, say, the 50s and 60s when he was, or 50s through the 70s when he was most popular. And I don't think like someone, a programmer for a big festival would say, "Hey, Miles, yeah, we want to book you to play trumpet, but also bring one of your paintings. Maybe you can show on stage." You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's one of those things that's kind of like tricky when you're dealing with programmers. Like, how are they going to keep their attention on what you do if they're more used to learning about one artist or booking one artist who does one thing extremely well, right? It's always, I don't know, it's a it's just an area that I've spoken to a lot of programmers, as I'm sure you have too, and
I am, that's like what I would say, like the majority of my career is about programming. So whether it has been in education, training teachers, whether like, love is in the details. So it's like a lot easier to create a program that you have 4 people, they just sit down and you just talk to them. But then it's not very memorable. Like, so then I create scenarios and dynamics to create interesting scenarios for people to want, that are memorable. I try and think about what would I, when I go to an event, what is memorable, that I want people to have a memorable time. I think about my family, that they're very, they have high standards, they're very critical. So I put things through their eyes. And so, yeah, so I mean, I do program, but exactly what you're saying is that a lot of people don't know. Some people get me and then some people don't, And so, um, um, and the same thing that you're saying, like about, I was going to ask you, do you consider yourself a Renaissance man?
um I guess you could say that, considering that well, this is tricky because, okay, like if I haven't really shown all of my talents throughout my career yet. Um, Now I've done some small bit parts in acting, but that's a whole area that I'm interested in that I haven't. I've studied it. I've studied it, with different people at different schools in New York, but I haven't really gone off in that area. So up to this point, I don't know. I mean, somebody might want to call me a Renaissance man, but I don't feel like I've really shown all that I can do yet. Um, time will tell. I'm one of those people that paces myself. So uh, there's more to come. I'll just put it like that. There's more to come, and maybe when I get to this point in my career where people are looking at my whole body of work, then they might make that assessment and they might say, "Oh wow, he was a Renaissance man," or. But I feel like right now, up to this point, I've been so focused on music. Now within music, I've played various styles across genres with various artists, from different genres. Uh, that would not define me as a Renaissance man. That just means I played, you know, all kinds of music on a professional level. I think later in life, after I dip into these other areas, then people might have that to say about me. But I'm not even if they don't. I'm not in it for that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really in it to be the best and most expressive I can be in my lane. That's what this is really about for me. It's like if I'm playing music, I want to be expressing myself through music. If I'm writing, I want to be doing the same. If I'm producing an artist, I want to help that artist, express themselves through music. It's been more about expression up to this point, and also educating. Like, that's where I am. And it's somebody might say, "Oh, he's a Renaissance man," but I'm not banking on it for that. That's not really where.
No, I was just saying that, like, because you seem like a Renaissance man. So that's why. And you
Okay.
were asking about like doing one thing and, you know, So
Well, it's it's crazy. festivals and on the